around the clock, sports all the time. That's never going to work. That's ridiculous.
Just remember to have fun out there today. And if you lose, I'll kill you.
This is Tall Can Audio.
Seriously, this thing is going to be a cultural disaster.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome inside a brand new edition of the Tall Can Audio podcast. Matt Robinson along with you with our man Steve Bunda today. What's going on, buddy?
Oh, Matt, I'm all right. I'll ask you first how you're doing, but man, these post-Halloween blues, I'm probably feeling just as low as you are, so I was going to
ask you, man, how many movies did we get in this year? I know for you, Halloween's a big thing, and now it's past, and some of us are mourning something different, but you had your own loss here over the weekend.
Yeah, I was going to say, Matt, it's basically the same level of loss, I'd say. Maybe me a bit more because, it's just sports, right? We're so used to that. But no, I had 47 movies watched throughout Halloween season. And, I see people throwing out their jack-o'-lanterns and their pumpkins. And it's like the Christmas stories. And already I've seen Macaulay Culkin in a Christmas commercial for Home Alone, basically. And it's like... It's November 4th. Yeah. Where's the respect for Halloween? It's just like you rip the cord so hard on that. So, I'm getting by. I think I'll be okay. I just, it's tough though. As a Halloween man, you know what? I'll stop complaining about me. How are you doing? You know what? I can't even complain about the Jays and how that game went or anything like that because I'm not a true Jays fan, but you know what? I was excited for them. I was rooting for them, even though I shouldn't be. But I loved Addison Barger. I love that energy that the team plays with. I don't know what you're going through. I feel like we're talking about a death of somebody here now, and I say, how are you doing? But I really mean it this time. I'm listening, and I'm sure everybody else is listening. Matt, how are you doing?
Yeah, it sucks. What are you going to say? It's a bummer, and the team was so much fun, and that's the part that I keep trying to remind myself of, was that this wasn't supposed to be a very good team, and we got 6 months of really fun baseball, a really likable group, a likable team, went further than they were ever supposed to, and then, you get to the end of it, and you just can't quite finish the story, and all of a sudden it's all over, and we'll get into some things here, but Bunda, I sat down on Monday night, and I had actually tweeted this out that, the Leafs, and I haven't seen a lot of them, but I've been following the record. I've obviously seen some highlights, and I've seen some of the games. They've been so mediocre, and I'm like, the Leafs cannot be excited right now that all of Toronto sports fans are about to turn their attention back to the Leafs while the Leafs are not playing well. And all those sports fans that are coming back cranky based on what just happened, not in a forgiving mood, already worn out with their patience on the Leafs. And Bunda, for the first 40 minutes of that game, the Leafs were awful. And I got up during that second intermission and I walked away, and I hadn't decided I'm done with this game, but I had a couple of things to do, and I was working on something here on the computer, and I missed the first 5 or 10 minutes of the third. You come back and you see it's tied up and whatever else. But I'm just on Monday night, it's Leafs versus the Penguins, which isn't as interesting as it used to be, and they're playing like shit, and just coming off the energy that Blue Jays run gave. Man, it just wasn't the same, and I think that's going to take some time. The closest thing I could compare it to is every year I used to get really into the World Juniors, and there was so much energy and so much excitement. Whether they won or lost, that first NHL game back was just we're just back mid-season form, guys going through the motions. It's not quite the same, right? And that's sort of what this feels like right now. A bit of a... well, for lack of a better term, a bit of a hangover on how much fun that was, and now you're sort of paying the price for it.
Yeah, you know what, though? I think I have something that could help you out here.
Oh.
Do you, by happen to have a cold beer near you?
I do have a cold beer near me, Bunda.
You know what, Matt? Let's take a sip and we can get into a couple things. You know what? Usually you ask me what I've got going on, but listen, what has the doctor prescribed for you today, Matthew?
So this says, a lot of people since Friday night have been finishing off their Halloween leftovers, right? Whatever candy was left, or skimming off the top of their kids' bowl, or whatever it might be.
We need to get into that. That's for sure.
Well, so I've got a couple of Halloween-themed beers here that I have to finish, right? So that I didn't get through. So this one is called the Witch's Hat. It's from Second Wedge Brewing Company down in Uxbridge, Ontario, not too far from where I'm sitting right now in Lindsay. And it is supposed to be a dark IPA, which I always really enjoy. You were around when we unveiled the beautiful Bytown there, our 10th anniversary beer. We made a dark IPA.
Tasty pint.
And so that's one of my favorite styles. It's the Witch's Hat from Second Wedge out at Uxbridge, about 6.5% because I'm still mourning a little bit. I know, we're recording this earlier in the day than we sometimes do, but I'm going to go ahead with the 6.5, a little bit strong for this time of day, but that's the emotional headspace I'm in right now. What are you rolling with?
Yeah, and I'm going to go with, and shout out to our pal Angela. She hooked me up with a couple of Lake of Bays.
Yes.
And I love this. I pointed it out to you when I saw them in the studio last, but I got the Lake of Bays. Damn it. Hazy light IPA, perfect for a daytime beer, 4%, but it's got the beaver on it with the blue backwards cap, and I was like, man, this got to be after Blink-182. Damn it has to be. And you were like, oh yeah, that's what's going on. So you know what? I felt like, you know what? You're doing me a solid by having a Halloween beer to make me a little bit happier and think about Halloween again and all the good times. So I'm happy you're doing a Halloween beer. I'm going with a nice, crisp, cool, light IPA, a nice hazy light IPA. So that's what I'm going to crank this afternoon, Matt. And listen, I need to know more about this Witch's beer. How does that taste?
Pretty good. On first pull here, it's it's not quite as dark flavored up front as I would have expected, but that might just be the first pull. But it does have a nice crispness to it that you would expect out of an IPA. Don't worry, Bunda. I'm not trying to trigger you. I said crispness, not Christmas. We're
Christmas.
Not there.
Come on.
Listen.
So,
but pretty nice. And, it's 6.5%. You can tell it's got a little bit of that extra alcohol bite to it, but not in a boozy way. So, pretty good here, man. The damn it. Yeah. You and I, as a couple of old pop punk nerds, our minds both went to the same place, the Blink-182 thing. So, I had a few of those over the summer as well. Angela always kind enough to hook us up. So, I'm glad you're enjoying that one.
Oh, yeah. Very good taste. Not very, this is perfect. I like a nice crushable IPA. Mm-hmm. Something that's like, it has that like piney IPA flavor, but it's not super strong. Stray Dogs and a couple of them where they'll release a 4%, just a nice crushable IPA. Yeah. That's exactly what this one is like, and I'm digging it.
I should
smooth.
I should let the good listener know that we've got someone making their TCA debut, a guy named Oren Wiesfeld, and he's got a new book out called The Golden Generation, How Canada Became a Basketball Powerhouse. And that book came out today. I got an advanced copy ahead of the interview. I've already finished it. Thought it was really enjoyable, kind of the history of the sport in Canada, and, some of the big names now and the way Canada kind of arrived on the big stage here over the last few years, right, with the big 2023 World Cup performance to qualify for the Olympics. The nice run they had at the Olympics came up a little short against France there in the quarterfinals, but sort of how Canada arrived at that space. Canada's always had talent in the NBA, but they just would not play for the national team. And so we got the story here as to sort of why that was the case, how they've turned things around and arrived on the big stage. So we'll talk to Oren about that on Thursday. If you're interested in checking out the book, we'll link to it in the show notes there. One of our affiliate links. You can support TCA that way. And if you missed it here over the course of the last week or so, we've also had James Duthie on with his new book, Certified Beauties. That was a lot of fun. Andy Petrillo was here. Her book, Just Call Me Andy, about her career and the rise of women in sports media. Mark Hebscher's been on. We got a little TCA book club happening right now, Bunda. Like a lot of people putting out sports books right now and coming on the show to talk about it. We'll link to all of them in the show notes at tallcanaudio.com or wherever you're hearing us right now. But I've honestly, over the last 2 weeks, I have powered through 4 different books, Bunda. It's been a bit of a chore here trying to keep up with these as the guests are coming up. You like to be prepared, right?
Pretty sure I haven't read a book since like grade 7. So good for you on being able to do 4 in like 2 weeks here. And, pretty awesome that you're able to speak with actually all of them. James Duthie's title kind of works as a title for everybody you just explained and talked about. But sounds really cool, and I was able to meet him and talk to him not meet him. I've met him a few times. Actually, he was down at REDBLACKS games a few years ago when the CFL was happening, but reconnected with him about his book as well a couple of weeks ago. And man, he is a certified beauty himself. Just such a great guy, and you have a great lineup going on there. But we'll switch back to the basketball book because apparently the only team in Toronto that can win things anymore is the Raptors. Right?
It seems
They're
like
the only thing in the Big Four sports that have been able to win. You go back a couple of years ago, and man,
the Argos have been on the map. They've
they're not the Big Four. Though.
All right,
MLS. Listen, there's a lot in Toronto that works, but I'm talking the Big Four. The Leafs. Jays. There's no NFL team, but basically the Bills. It's just not happening. But not to get too upset about Toronto sports, but Toronto sports, right?
That's what it's about, and it's fun every now and then to drag the rest of the country down with us when they jump on board with the Toronto sports team and make them feel our pain every now and then before we send everybody back to their corners for the NHL. So stay tuned for that on Friday morning. You'll get that with Orrin Wiesfeld. That's going to be a good conversation. Looking forward to talking to him. Bunda, I sort of said to you before we started recording that I have had my head so far up my own ass about the Blue Jays here over the last several weeks that I'm feeling a little detached from almost everything else. And I have seen the first period of several Sens and Leafs games, and then at 8 o'clock, the remote gets flipped to the Jays, and I don't flip back. I'm staying put on those baseball playoff games. And so I need you to sort of catch me up here on what I've missed, and we might as well start with the Ottawa Senators. And like I've seen some first periods, I've seen some highlights, I've certainly seen some Twitter reactions. It seems like a lot of people are focused on the goaltending. The team is they're in a fine spot. It seems like almost everybody in the Eastern Conference is right around 500, and nobody's fallen out of it, and nobody's really running away with it. What have you seen out of the Ottawa Senators here over the last couple of weeks while my attention has been elsewhere? And is it disappointing? Is it more than the goaltending, or is it that the team's playing well and just can't get a save? I did see one stat that says they're first in the league in goals for and second in the league in goals against, which is gross, right, in terms of what you're giving up. What have you seen out of the Sens here over the last little bit?
Yeah, it's been a weird go for the Sens because, you bring up Linus Ullmark, and goaltending has been a bit of a struggle. Obviously, the loss of Brady Tkachuk is something that was very big on Sens fans' minds, but it seems like Tim Stützle is stepping up. Drake Batherson had himself, quite a week last week, was named third star of the week, I believe, in the NHL. But when you look at the record, they're 6-5-2. I only got to catch a little bit of the Habs game the other night because, like you, I was getting ready and watching Game 7 for the Toronto Blue Jays.
It was so funny, Bunda, on Saturday night, not to interrupt you, but I'm watching the game, and then during the commercial breaks, I'm jumping onto Twitter to see how people are reacting to Bo's home run or, whatever might have just happened. And I'm like, seeing our friends, we both have, obviously friends around Ottawa media, and not just Ottawa media, Toronto media, that are like live tweeting the hockey game which is part of their job. But I'm like, get out of my way. I'm just looking for Blue Jays content right now. Like, who could possibly care about this hockey game right now? Whether it was the Leafs, whether it was Sens Habs, whether it was other games going on. I'm just sort of like, get out of the way. Get off my timeline right now. Jays content only.
It's funny, because there was a lot happening, and that's the problem, right? Saturday night, at least, things were there, but it was tough. Like the Sens are a team where I think they are exactly where they are, 6-5-2, and that's exactly who they are. They're a team that can play really good one game and then really bad the next. And they can have some good goaltending one night. It's kind of an up and down start to the year for them, and it all started with injuries right off the hop. Again, to Brady Tkachuk, losing their captain right away. That's tough. And Drake Batherson, right? He was injured to start the year, especially in the preseason. So, it feels like kind of slow starts for the team. But then again, they've been able to pick things up a little bit. I look at, where they are and how things are going in general for the team. And I think, you know what? I don't know what to make of them just yet. And it's kind of like the Leafs. I look at them right now, and much like you, I had the Leafs game on last night, and it was 2-0 Penguins, and the Leafs are playing like hot garbage. And I think it was the first period, and I'm thinking, yeah, this game, what am I doing? Like, I'm going to bed. So early morning wake up, and then I wake up, and I'm like, the Leafs won 4-3, and then I found out the Leafs were down 3-0.
Yeah.
And then they were up 4-3 with 12 minutes left in the game or so, or 10 minutes. Like,
yeah, it was just one big explosion there early in the third.
So I'm thinking so they held on to a lead for, a solid amount of time late into the game. Well, that's pretty good. But yeah, when I look at the way the Sens season has just gone, it's just, and again, like I said, the Leafs, I don't really have a read. This division is all over the place. Somehow the Habs are damn good.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on there?
Detroit's right there at the top of the division.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what to make of Detroit either, which is another kind of just weird situation themselves. But when I look at the Habs being 9-3, and I'm thinking okay, I wasn't expecting them to be this good, but the Red Wings, yeah, not really either. And Tampa's been whatever. The Sabres and the Panthers, I mean, the Panthers have had a kind of a rough start too, but you know what? When you went back-to-back Stanley Cups, who the hell cares about the damn Panthers anymore, right? It's good for them to not be, so great. But yeah, when I look at the Sens, man, it's just tough. It really is. It's tough. And again, 8th in goals. They have a lot of goals per game. Shots, they're doing all right. But, the power play, not so bad. It's just they're a team right now that I think just is missing something. And whether it's, 341 from Linus Ullmark, that's not a good. Levi Merilainen, man, he's had a couple of games where he's only started 2, but, when he's given up almost 4.5 goals a game, that's just tough, right? They're just not getting the great goaltending. But, Drake Batherson, again, 15 points already to start the year, 5 goals, good for him. He's starting off well. Tim Stützle, we've talked and heard so many people talk about how, he's that guy that's probably just scratching the surface of a, really, really good NHL player to elite center in the NHL. And I think he's right there. And you know what? He's been trying to lead the way. And Shane Pinto, I think we all didn't think he was as great as he started, but man, he had a great start to the season this year. Obviously slowing down a little bit, but hasn't had a goal. Yeah, exactly. Hasn't had a goal in 4 games.
You mentioned with them, it looks like they're missing something, and maybe it is no more complicated than missing their captain. And we did talk on this show at one point when Brady went down, what do you do now? And I want to be careful how I frame this, because they are leading the league in goals. And so they haven't really missed a step offensively, but maybe there's missing something energy-wise, or the guy that drags you into the fight physically a little bit. I wonder if there's something to that, and is it reasonable to say without your captain and your top line winger that if you can just hold the fort and kind of hang in and be 500 until he gets back, that would be good? Or do you need to have a little more than that? And maybe we're not giving them enough credit, and the team is playing fine and they just can't get a goddamn save, and that'll sink anybody. It's early, but it's not that early. We are into November now, and there are people who follow goaltending and know goaltending better than you or I, who are saying, yeah, this is starting to become a little concerning now about Linus Ullmark, and they don't have a great secondary option. Merilainen hasn't been great to start the year. They've sent him down to the minors a couple times to get him a game here or there to see if they can kind of get him going. I don't know. I don't know if it's, the missing Brady, or if it's the goaltending, if it's all of it. I haven't seen enough to say, but they need to get going here. And as long as the division is this mushy, there's still a chance. You reel off 3 or 4 in a row and you're right there near the top of the division, but they just haven't shown right now that that's on the horizon.
Yeah, and I put a couple things into it. Fabian Zetterlund was kind of put in a spot where there was a little bit of hype around him this year. There was a good chunk of excitement, and a goal and 2 assists, 3 points in 13 games. When you lose a guy like the captain, right, you need guys like him to step up, especially when he was playing. And I think, they started the season playing together first couple of games. So Ridley Gregg, a goal, 3 assists, not a lot going on there. Claude Giroux, right? 2 goals, 6 assists, like through 13 games. Like these are guys that you kind of need to step up. Dylan Cousins had, I don't know, I wouldn't say a completely slow start, but he seems like he's kind of found his way after a couple games.
Yep.
It's guys like that need to step up. Do they need to make a move? I think they do. And the only reason I think that is I think teams right now, like the Leafs, like the Lightning, the Sens, the Bruins, I don't know.
I expect them to fade here as we go, but
yeah, I look at the Bruins as I don't really care either. Yeah. But I look at those teams right there where, you know what, there seems to be a little bit of an opening and cluster of teams, right? And I'm not sure. We'll see the Montreal Canadiens sustain their kind of winning streak and ability.
I think out of these first 9 wins that they have, I think 4 of them are in overtime and a couple of comeback wins. Like there's some real coin flips there, and they're full value for winning those, but it may not be sustainable. I expect them to be right around a playoff team again. I don't expect them to win the division.
Yeah, and that's where I look at teams like the Leafs that seem to just struggle right now. Again, like when you see how they played against Pittsburgh, Matthews, really existent. Nylander's been dealing with injuries, and he wasn't really, around. But then you saw, the Leafs team in that third period when I watched the highlights, that seemed like the Leafs team from last year. Yeah. Where when they want to, they can absolutely dominate teams, and they could play strong defensive hockey.
There's still a lot of talent there, and you're wondering why do you have to have those first 40 garbage minutes when
I didn't love that third goal on Stolarz, but he made some big saves at the end of the game, and I'm thinking this is the team that we saw last year, minus Mitch Marner, but when you see guys, like Nylander and Matthews take over games like they did, and they could score goals in a frenzy like that, and Pittsburgh, didn't look so great to start that third period. They looked flat-footed, but I look at the Leafs as a team, it's like they need to make a move soon, because they can't afford to be lost in the shuffle here, and they're an injury away from probably being a non-playoff team.
Well,
and
you look at that blue line right now with Tanev out and Ekman-Larsson out, and it's thin, man. It's not good. Like, you've got Dakota Mermis playing with Morgan Riley. You've got Benoit and McCabe, and then Philip Myers and
he's the other guy.
Man, it's thin. Like you said, the injuries.
And you talk about the injuries to Wall, too, right? Like, Caden Primo hasn't looked very good when he's gotten a chance. Stolarz, up until the third period last night, I thought hasn't looked very good this year, and he was calling out the team and, trying to get something going on them. And I'm thinking, this team just doesn't seem to have it right now. Craig Berube is trying to, it sounds like Nick Robertson might be getting moved. There's a lot of things swirling around the team, and I think it's time to, pull the trigger, if you're the Leafs, on getting rid of a guy like Robertson, bringing in some help, because it just seems like things right now are just a bit on the I don't know what the heck we are side, and I'm not quite sure. As for the Sens, I think they're in a spot where they look almost they've looked and have more reason to be where they are than the Leafs do, right? I think that where the Sens are right now, it's like this might be the perfect time to make a move, and you dealing with that loss, and it sounds like Brady Tkachuk will be back till about mid-December, but this might be the time to go add some forward help, go add some help, just to give you guys the team a boost, but also at the same time try to separate yourself from that middle of the pack teams and let everybody sort themselves out. Everybody's kind of just fending for themselves. You're going to maybe wait and see how things open up, but then, like I said, and over the Sens are an injury away on offense, or not on offense, but on one of their forwards to crap. We're down. Drake Batherson, like I said, started the year hurt. But if Stützle or anybody goes down right now, and again, injuries are a big part of the game, but you kind of got to look at injuries. They're almost part of the game now, where if you get healthy for the entire season, knock on wood, go grab yourself a lottery ticket, do whatever you got to do. That's your lucky year. That doesn't happen in sports anymore. You need to be able to count on having guys, just dealing with injuries, but also moving forward. And
that would be the other thing that makes me feel positive about the Sens is, you're at 6-5-2, so you've kept your head above water here. Has it been great? No. But if you're somebody who believes Allmark is going to bounce back and round into form, then you've got that still to look forward to, and that'll push you forward. And Brady is coming back, and when he gets back, he'll be looking to really get going and really be fired up heading into the Olympics. So, there are positives around the corner for the Sens. you just got to survive, right? You just got to get there before that boost comes, I guess, right?
And for what it's worth for Linus Ullmark, I vaguely remember him starting not the greatest last year as well.
Yeah.
I know he dealt with a couple injuries as well, but
that's right.
He didn't really come on and show that he was one of the best goaltenders in the league again. Until later. Until later in the year. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt just because the Sens have kind of been trying to figure themselves out minus their captain. And that's another reason why I think with the captain gone, adding somebody now to kind of the mix and, you can build back. So like you said, when he gets back, Brady Tkachuk is back, I think the Sens are in a spot where, all right, let's get going now.
Right.
Whereas other teams are going to be around Christmas time and, January looking and hemming and hawing and waiting to pull the trigger. And I feel like it's tough, but we've always seen teams that trade early. I don't hate it. And I know, speaking of James Duthie, but always talking to him and, other TSN analysts, but, the things they hate is when NHL teams make trades well before the trade deadline and they start picking away all the good players from the trade bait board. So that when they do the
free
trade
agency
center show,
this year looks like it's going to be a dud, right? Markstrom just getting signed over the weekend, Natchez last week. Like there's lots of guys who were supposed to be the big UFAs on July 1st that are all getting locked up too. So.
Yeah. So
when we look at
I'm always in favor of making those moves early, though, whether, Leafs or the Sens. I think, again, there are teams in that Atlantic division right now that are kind of just sitting there. And I'm thinking, like,
this is it. Nobody's separated themselves.
Yeah, someone's got to do it because later, like, again, you're an injury away from it, being determined for you.
Yeah, that's right. As we look out to Western Canada, and maybe there's not much here, I'd be curious, does anything surprise you? I think some people thought maybe Winnipeg would fall back a bit and, certainly not be the President's Trophy winner, but I think we still thought they would be a good team. Edmonton looks a little like Toronto, but maybe gets the benefit of the doubt after 2 trips to the Cup final, just in the sense that they're fine, but they're not playing their best hockey thus far. And but that most people assume when comes time, they'll be okay. Calgary looks bad. I think Vancouver is probably disappointed at the start they've had, despite the fact they've had some injuries. Is there anything, whether it be on the positive or the negative side out in Western Canada, that's caught your attention?
Yeah, I like the fact that the Colorado Avalanche are 7-1-5. They just, if you take them to overtime, they're losing.
Yes.
It seems to be the only way to beat them because in regulation, it's just not happening.
5-on-5 monsters and just can't do shit at 3-on-3.
Makes me laugh. But no, and I think Utah, you know what? I like that they came in. I wanted the Utah Yeti. I really did. I was really disappointed. The Utah Mammoth, I love the logo. It's grown on me quite a bit. But just to see like guys like Nick Schmaltz, it's like, woof.
Yeah,
like,
where'd you come from?
Like, you've always been a guy, but like you're this guy. Like, okay,
right.
Good to see you. And Logan Cooley, young, finally starting to develop. Like, I'm not surprised to see him kind of moving that way. But Dylan Gunther, Clayton Keller, there's a couple guys there.
Well, look at goal, Kirill Vejmelka. Like all of a sudden, you look across the NHL. You've got Lucas Dostal, Kirill Vejmelka, and now in Montreal, this Jakub Dobish kid. The Czechs, all of a sudden, I don't know if they'll be any good at the Olympics, but they're going to have 3 great goalies to choose from.
Yeah. So, it's crazy to see a team, and I love when you get to see the expansion teams do good. Utah I think Seattle that struggled a little bit early on, I think, in their first year of the expansion. But Vegas, going to the Cup year 1. Utah, a bit of an up and down, but nothing great last year kind of thing.
Yeah.
But nice to see them kind of take that step this year and off to a great start, I'd say, like 8-4, pretty good. That you kind of they've separated themselves, looking at a couple other teams, the Ducks being 7-3-1, definitely a surprise.
I like the Ducks, man. I we sort of talked about them a bit on the show here over the months. I thought they might take a step forward. I didn't think they would be this big of a step forward, and maybe it won't last. Like we said, it is still early, but one of the things that I kept talking about with the Jays all through the early parts of the summer was, like, yeah, maybe they're not going to be this good, but they have all these wins and you don't have to give them back, right? You get to keep those in your back pocket and moving forward. And later on, if the Ducks or if Utah are right in the mix fighting for 8th, you'll be glad you grabbed all those wins in October. They're worth every bit as much, the old cliche, right, as wins in April. So get them early, man, and have that in your back pocket.
Yeah. And as for the Oilers, like, I'm never going to worry until they're like 30 points out of the playoffs, because we all know Connor, I think they started slow last year and just kind of came on hard.
That's what they do.
Ain't shook. Oilers, like you said, back to back. I think the only thing I'm worried about for the Oilers is for Mr. Skinner, because I don't know how he finishes the year with the team, honestly. It seems surprising, but I also want to just bring up too that I think good to see Connor Bedard off to a pretty good start. 6 goals, 10 assists, 16 points. I really am happy. I think he should make this Olympic hockey team.
Wow.
I think I do.
He and Celebrini both killing it, man.
And I think that those are the young guys of the future that need to be on the same team when you have guys like Crosby and McDavid. They need to be the young guys that are getting the torch passed, being around the team, whether they play a lot or not. Whoever's on your fourth line or your extra forwards, you know what? If they don't play every game, that's fine. But if they don't play the whole game, that's fine. You're not really taking up roster spots. I'm so over these. You know what? Like, you go back a couple of years and where Chris Kunitz is on the same line as Sidney Crosby, right? And I'm thinking, like, what a joke. Like, just because they play good. And again, you want the chemistry, whatever. You're in a short tournament. You want to have that built. But I also just hate it. I just don't like it. Like, and I look at a guy like Connor Bedard and how, things haven't been the way you'd expect them to go in Chicago, but it seems like they're really struggling to kind of bounce back from I guess post life after their core got ripped up. But Connor Bedard is definitely one of the future Canadian stars, and I think he needs to be on that team. So I'd say it's good to see him off to a hot start. I think that's a big thing for them. As for the rest of the West,
sure.
Yeah, I haven't watched a lot of the West, but those are just a couple of things that I picked up on that I thought, okay. And you know what? Now's a time too where I'm about to get into hockey a little bit more. Not that I wasn't, but playoff baseball is unmissable, almost, especially when the Red Sox finally made the playoffs. Listen, they didn't do very well against the Yankees, but then for the Jays there, it had me hanging on for quite a bit. And then, I had Halloween season. So now that Halloween season is off, I could start focusing on hockey season. And, the NFL is full swing. So that's good there. The CFL season is basically coming to an end right now. So, I'm kind of in that spot.
Barn burner on Saturday between Montreal and Winnipeg.
Did you catch any of that?
I did see a lot of that. Yeah, that was an incredible game, and maybe we can get into that. But we should talk a little closer to home here. Look, for as long as either one of us can remember, everybody talked about how much people loved Dice and the players loved Bob Dice and wanted to play for him and what a great guy he was. And I have no trouble believing any of that. Like, I'm sure that's all true. But at some point, when the team is as bad as it's been, for as long as it's been, heads have to roll. And they didn't waste any time after the end of the season, another brutal loss, and they just go ahead and get it out there right that weekend that, we're moving on from our head coach. I'm sure you weren't surprised to see it, but what do you think they're going to go looking for now? Is this a team that's going to give somebody else another first try? They did have Rick Campbell on the staff. Would they look at him? Will they be looking for experience? Like, what does this team need moving forward as it pertains to coaching? And then, obviously there will be changes on the roster as well. But what does this offseason got to look like for the Red Blacks?
Yeah. Again, tough. Like, all the players, like you said, talk highly of Bob Dice and talk about how much they love playing for him. Working with Bob Dice, I've covered the team every season, and being able to talk to him when he was a special teams coach and won a Grey Cup with his team. He's the longest tenured coach, not just head coach, but just employed by the Ottawa REDBLACKS. So, great guy, and there was a reason for that. Like, he was an amazing special teams coach. As a head coach, things just didn't work out, and there could be so many different reasons, but the one thing is he's still a great guy, and I always love dealing with him and talking with him. And he was we've exchanged notes since then, and I do wish the best. I know I'll see him somewhere. He's a coach that I feel like is going to get picked up as a special teams guy, no doubt.
Guy's a CFL lifer, right? Like,
and honestly, a lot of the players will say, like, the best special teams coach they've ever played for. He is so good, and it's unfortunate it didn't work out as a head coach, but Bob Dice is the kind of guy that, like I said, I could see him being employed very soon. Wanted to say that. It was again, frustrating year. Red Blacks fans, everybody, for, guys like Bob Dice, Sean Burke, Oseg, but again, the fans, they they're struggling. It's tough when you only have one real winning season in the last like 6 or 7, right? It's very tough to lose so many games the way they did, where they start slow, quarterback's injured, and there's not a lot of sexiness to the offense. Play calls are just not the way it was. So things need to change. And I look at it as, if they put Rick Campbell and give him another chance, I'm not going to be against that, but I think that needs to be like your very, very last resort plan if you're the Ottawa REDBLACKS.
You miss out on plan A and plan B. And
I don't want that to have to be the case, because then I look at Rick Campbell is a lame duck, right? Yeah. And I look at the situation where I think the fans, I think the team, I think everybody needs a fresh start. Yeah. I think they need a coach. And look, Winnipeg ended up losing the other night. I know Mike O'Shea has been talked about as a guy that could potentially be out there and available. I think they said that Winnipeg wants to try and bring him back and figure things out. But if there's any way that the REDBLACKS can bring Mike O'Shea in as a head coach, I think that is an absolute slam dunk. Just a different dynamic. Again, things have just been the same for so long, and I think to change things up, you need to really bring a spark. And he's a guy that's been to numerous Grey Cups lately, and he's won one, more than one. But as a player, the energy, he's a guy that when watching him on the sidelines, he just has that energy, and the team, the guys, everybody loves to play for him. I think the REDBLACKS need someone that's a fresh voice, but an authoritative voice, someone that can hold the team accountable, and just change things again, shift gears just a little bit again, and just move forward. And I think that's the big thing. And I think they're a team that, if you want to get back on track, they need to be able to figure things out like that. And I think that a guy like Mike O'Shea is a great name, and I think he's just shown what he could do in Winnipeg since he took over as their head coach.
This would be the first year in 6 years that they haven't been. The Winnipeg hasn't been at least in the Grey Cup game. They have been the picture of consistency. Were you surprised? I think a lot of people, and fans are emotional, and that's fine. I'm one of them, that maybe thought that this might cut a little deeper, like that maybe Sean Burke would be shown the door as well. Were you surprised that that wasn't the case, and that he'll be back, that he's going to get another crack to go find a coach here?
A little bit, yeah. Just because he's been around for a little bit now, and I do think that when you get into that spot as a head coach, when you're the guy that was hired by the GM and you get let go, it's very tough, especially when you were here for the previous coach as well. Mm-hmm. But most importantly, unless Sean Burke gets an extension, it's going to be hard to bring in a head coach when he's got 1 year left on his contract.
Yes.
So you bring in a head coach that then if your GM thinks
coach is going to want 3 years, and now you want
to be lined up with a GM, right? Yeah. You just want to be, so unless they give him another year extension, 2-year extension, and things go there, I am a little surprised. It sounds like they're trying to make something work. I was a little surprised right off the bat, just because it felt like the clean sheet was there for them, and if not, then okay, who is the next plan? Is that we give Rick Campbell 1 year and we bring back Sean Burke and we see how things go? I don't feel like that's going to sell to the fan base very well. No. But again, Rick Campbell, and you look at the special teams this year, they were some of the worst special teams that this team has seen in a long time. Yep. Lewis Ward and Richie Leone, two guys that have been one of the best at their positions.
Stalwarts,
stalwarts as both kickers and punters and special teams guys. They struggled mightily this year. Both of them having some of their worst years, and the amount of block punts, kick stuff, coverages that were busted. It just felt like, okay, if Rick Campbell is going to be the guy, how do you go from a guy that is was a special teams coordinator that was one of the major disappointments of the REDBLACKS team? Like, there was a lot that went on this year. Mm-hmm. Offensively, clearly is the biggest one, but the special teams was definitely right there as a huge disappointment. How do you look good when you tell your fan base, we're going to put Rick Campbell as a head coach when he also struggled?
The fans
with his
are ready.
Unit.
This has to be as much new as possible, and maybe Rick Campbell would do a fine job, but I think you're going to have a hell of a time telling this fan base, we're bringing somebody back who was partly responsible for last year. No, fans want a turning of the page here, new faces, new perspectives, new playbook. Let's turn the page. I don't think you could sell Rick Campbell right now. I just think the fan base isn't in the mood for it.
Yeah, no, exactly. So when I see that, I'm thinking that that's got to be really, really worst case scenario, and I don't think it's going to be something that the fans love. Orlando Steinauer is another name that's been out there. I've heard people bring up Henry Burris's name as well, who's coaching right now in college football. But I look at it as I think you need an experienced coach, and you need a coach that kind of brings that demanding factor for your players, can get guys up on certain days. And, the slow starts are something that I think really pissed off Red Blacks fans, because every game they needed to win. And it's like, okay, let's start well. Okay, another flop. And, whether you talk to any coach in sports and you ask them, whether it be the Red Blacks, the Sens, starting slow right now, Travis Green, hey, what's with the slow starts? And they say, always the coach will say, whether it be Bob Dice, Travis Green, any coach in sports will say, well, if we knew, we wouldn't be starting slow, right? Like if we knew the answer, it wouldn't be like this. So I look at the situation where the Ottawa REDBLACKS are in a spot where, listen, you have carte blanche. Let's see what you could do here and make things happen. Orlando Steinauer is another name that I think in the ties there to Hamilton, and Sean Burke was in Hamilton. There's some familiarity there. But me personally, I think Mike O'Shea is the guy you want to try and go bring out of Winnipeg. I think that would be that name, that recognition across the league, that veteran kind of coach that again, just seems to be able to get guys up and play.
And that would excite the fan base, right?
Yeah,
the guy that believes that's a good coach coming into our team right now. And look, that matters right now. You're going to have to sell some goodwill here, because you're starting to get into some dangerous territory when it comes to apathy, and when it comes to people not wanting to buy tickets, not wanting to go. You need something that's going to reignite this fan base, and that would be a big name that might help do it if you could ever pry him out of Winnipeg. I'm not sure whether one down year for the Bombers will be enough for them to want to part ways with him.
No.
But if you could make that happen, that would be big.
Yeah, I like that a lot. So, and for Sean Burke, obviously, like, he knows the writing's on the wall. Like, he's got to put together a team. So, especially that he's back right now. And again, if this situation where Mike O'Shea's like, well, I don't really want to come there with a GM. Like, that's also not a good look. Like, if you're the Red Blacks and the OSEG and everybody that's out there, if, you can't attract a coach because of the GM's contract, well, then you have to really look at the situation as which matters more right now.
Yeah.
And I think that's a tough spot to be in. Like you said, Red Blacks are in some tough times right now. And again, you look at a team like Montreal and the turnover they've had, the injuries they've had. Davis Alexander, like he missed so much of the year, but they were still able to maintain, being one of the top teams in the East.
Yep.
It's crazy to see like how people can use excuses. And Ottawa, I do think that a lot of the losses this year are injury. Drew Brown doesn't get hurt in the very first game. How does the rest of the year go? There's a lot that you can put into it. What ifs are always so easy to use as an excuse, but when I look at the team, I look at all of the what ifs that they had to go through, and the Alouettes are right there. They're a team where you could just see they just gel, they feel it, and they put things together. And Davis Alexander is yet to lose a game in the CFL, which is crazy because people will say, well, how many games has he played in the CFL? Like what is this and whatever. But no, the guy just hasn't lost in the CFL, and he just beat Winnipeg at home. I get it, they're the crossover team. It would be interesting to see if Mike O'Shea does leave Winnipeg and things are a whole change in the CFL. The CFL is so small like that the family is always going to be very interesting to look at. When they always talk about that as, hey, it's such a small league. So when you always ask players, hey, what's it like going back to play against your former team? They're like, yeah, I've been on 4 of them. It's not a big deal. But to change things over in the CFL, Montreal beating Winnipeg, that didn't really surprise me too much. Just Montreal has been rolling really well, and Zach Collaros has been dealing with injuries and concussion issues, and Winnipeg just seemed to have an off year this year, and good for Montreal. I don't really care who wins the Grey Cup right now, but
is that true? I know you're a CFL guy, and we're down to the Final Four. That was going to be my next question. Who do you like? But it sounds like you're just kind of whatever.
I have BC. I like my Grey Cup pick before the season was Red Blacks versus BC, and I think I had BC winning it. So I look at BC, and I think it'd be great. I also think it'd be great for the CFL if BC won, because the face of the league is Nathan Rourke, and I believe he's going to win the MLP. I think it comes down to him versus Bo Levi, basically. But I think that Nathan Rourke is the Canadian quarterback, and he's shown when he's playing, no matter how bad that team is doing, he is must watch. Like, he is exciting to watch as a quarterback. And I look at his game the other day, and yeah, BC didn't do a lot. But Nathan Rourke, whether it be, in the passing game, but when you look at, 68 yards rushing and a touchdown, like, he had some big runs and used his legs when he needed to. And I just look at BC as a team that if they win, I think that'd be good. So I'm not going to say I'm cheering for them. I think it'd be really good for the CFL. Plus, it'd make me look even better to say that I picked them to win the Grey Cup before the year happened.
Especially since your East pick didn't pan out so well. So
yeah, you know what? If I'm going to go one way, I might as well make it the other way, right? So I do. I don't have anything against Saskatchewan. I don't have anything against Montreal or Hamilton, but I don't really care about any of these teams.
Just saw
winning.
A tweet here before we started, said Saskatchewan appears to be up to about 30,000 sold for that West final, so they'll support it. They always do. That's encouraging to see. Why don't we head south of the border here for a few minutes and just I'm curious about where we're at on the NFL and who may be standing out to you. I don't know what to make. I got to be honest with you. I've sort of been on and off the bandwagon. I don't like them, so I'm never, I guess, on the band. But what to make of the Patriots? There's a couple other teams out there that are sort of, I can't tell yet which way they're going to go. What have been a couple of standout stories for you around the NFL here as we kind of make our way into at this point, you're in the meat of the season for the NFL moving through November, and this is when things tend to start to separate themselves, who's for real and who's not, and you start to position yourself headed towards the playoff drive here. What's stood out to you?
How crazy of a year it's been, honestly. And today's trade deadline day, for the NFL, and there's just and it's usually in the NFL, you don't get a lot of trades leading up to it, but there have been a crazy amount of trades so far. Going back even just a couple of days ago, the Eagles are making trades for, Jair Alexander from Baltimore, defensive end. Baltimore made a trade for DeMonte Jones. Monday Night Football, I can't believe I've waited this long to bring this up. I know you probably weren't watching Monday Night Football last night, and I don't care if you were. I'm going to tell you the story anyways. But sure enough, it's in Dallas. It's Jerry World, and Jerry's just walking around. He's got the strut going on, and he's laughing, and he's smiling, and he's having so much fun chatting with his good buddy, the most exciting and funny guy he's probably ever seen, because they look like two peas in a pod and that they're both comedians. But Gary Bettman?
Oof.
The fuck? These guys were hanging out and just having so much fun.
What a pair that is.
Yeah, so now Gary made the announcement that there's going to be an outdoor game at Dallas Stadium and even said on Monday Night Football pregame show, yes, we're coming to Jerry World. And I'm thinking, this guy is so... he's just so funny and boring. But I'm thinking, how is he so funny and boring? But yet Jerry Jones just thinks he's the funniest guy. And then you see them like the biggest bromance I've seen since Usain Bolt. And man, it's just crazy to just see that how much they were having fun. But
what an odd couple, yeah.
Yeah, odd couple, and announcing an outdoor game again at Cowboy Stadium, which is interesting, or I guess AT&T. But
is that technically even outdoors? Can we count it as an outdoor game?
It's a stadium series game, I guess you could say, and the way they'll make it happen. The Dallas Stars, I think that's a cool experience for them, right? Everybody, talks about that and how big that would be. But, last night you got Jerry Jones talking about on the pregame show, right as they're making the announcement, I've already made a trade, but I'm going to wait till tomorrow to announce it. And it's a 7th-round pick traded for her linebacker. And, there's been a flurry of trades so far. Sauce Gardner being traded from the Jets for numerous first-round picks. Which is crazy because Sauce Gardner is one of the best defensive backs in the league. Seattle has made a trade for Rashid Shaheed. This is not the NHL trade deadline. The NFL trade deadline, you might get 2 trades max.
Yeah.
To have this many trades in the last couple hours and days is rather crazy. So that's interesting in itself.
Sure.
I could go up and down the NFL and say surprises. And, Drake May, showing that, the Patriots are pretty much back. And Mike Vrabel, great hire there.
Sure.
I think that's a big thing, especially when the Bills are also 6-2, and they're coming off a big win against Kansas City where they feel pretty good about it. And Josh Allen is there. I think that's going to be a crazy race to the end between the Bills and the Patriots, and kind of goes back a couple years ago when those two used to just love to fight each other anyway. So very interesting stuff there. Pittsburgh, I think, is an interesting story, but we've kind of seen that the Steelers are kind of human, and that Aaron Rodgers, they're whatever, sitting there 5-3. When you see the teams like the Ravens, who have dealt with injuries and haven't looked very good, they're 3-5. Well, they're only 2 games behind, and there's plenty of racetrack left. They can absolutely still win that division. The Bengals not looking so good. The Browns still looking the same. The Colts at 7-2. Listen, I don't care who they play, who they beat. The Colts, I am not going to believe in Daniel Jones and the Indianapolis Colts. And I don't care if they just traded for Sauce Gardner. But listen, I'm not going to believe that they're a good team and that everybody should be afraid of them until they win a playoff game. I'm just not going to believe it. I don't. They lost to the Steelers the other night. The other afternoon, and I look at that as like, okay, that just one shows me that the Colts obviously are very much beatable, but their defense is solid, and Daniel Jones is not the reason why they're doing so good. I think Jonathan Taylor has been amazing, but for Daniel Jones to go from the Giants, to the Colts, and now the Colts are leading their division, when that's a tough division. When you look at teams like Houston Texans, they're supposed to be better with C.J. Stroud this year and D'Amico Ryans, and they're not good. And it's like, oh, okay.
Sometimes the path just opens up, right? Like
it's exactly it, and that's where. And look at the Colts; they're going out and they traded for one of the best DBs, traded 2 first-round picks. They realize, hey, we might have a year where we could be very damn good.
Yep.
Let's make sure we take advantage of that. And that's where I'm kind of a little bit surprised. But the Jacksonville Jaguars, they're 5-3. Trevor Lawrence, that's been a team where they've struggled to kind of get the best out of him. And Liam Cohen, the offensive coordinator for the Buccaneers last year, new head coach there. It seems like they're all playing for him. I'm still a little bit sour about how we left Tampa, but you know what? It seems like he's, doing pretty good over there. The AFC West, man, what a division that has also been. Like, the Chiefs are 5-4 and they're in 3rd place. The Chargers are 6-3. Broncos are 7-2. You know what? The Raiders are still going to be the Raiders, so they're still.
I might be falling back onto that Bronco bandwagon a little bit. Man.
Okay.
We'll see, right? Like I've made no bones about it. I've talked about it on the show before that I didn't really have a hardcore NFL favorite team. I just loved Peyton Manning, and so I was a Colts guy. And then when he moved, I followed him to Denver. And then when he retired, I was just like, but I kind of like Bo Nix, right? Like, I kind of like seeing what this guy's got going on. He made the great quote last year. Like, he was clearly just fed up with stupid questions. And so someone asked him about an interception he'd thrown. He just like, I dropped back and threw it to the other team. And I just like those little snide remarks and stuff. But I don't know if they're any good or not, like long term, but they're having an okay year. Like, Bo Nix might win me over here a little bit.
No, I think Bo Nix is the perfect quarterback for Sean Payton. I hate Sean Payton for being a head coach for the New Orleans Saints and the torture he gave me as a Bucs fan.
Sure.
Look, that defense is nasty. Patrick Surtain, one of the best in the league. Crazy to see, too. Alex Singleton. There's guys on that team that look so good, but their defense is legit. And I think now that their offense is rolling, they got some weapons there. And Bo Nix in the creative offensive mind of Sean Payton, that offense is good. They're definitely a good team. The Chargers, I just don't know what to make of. They're a team that always comes out strong, and I want to believe is good, and have kind of thought, hey, these guys might be okay. And then Justin Herbert and the team, they just don't, Harbaugh's there now, and he's trying to turn things around and make things better. But then I need to see them win big games. I need them, I need to see them do something. The Chiefs at 5-4, coming off that loss to the Bills, they're kind of fighting for their playoff lives in a year where, like, it looked like a couple weeks ago that they were totally back. Once Taylor Swift released an album, all was kind of fixed in Chiefs world after they had a tough start to the year. And so I think the AFC being the way it is right now, and all these teams you expect to see on top, like the Chiefs, I'd say the Texans, but, the AFC South nobody cares about. But the Ravens or the Bengals, not being the top, and, the Patriots being up over the Bills right now, it's all kind of a bit surprising. And that's what I love about the NFL.
I didn't see the Patriots coming, man. I just didn't. No, not this year.
No, and I look great now, too. We'll switch to the NFC. I was just talking to a buddy of mine who's a Bears fan. Like, the NFC North is just like, that division is crazy right now. I look at the Packers as a team that they're leading the way at 5-2-1 in the NFC North. But Jordan Love has shown that he can be very hot and cold. And they don't strike me as a team that's very good. I've watched and I see all the people talking about it on TV, whether it be ESPN or whatever, or Pat McAfee. I love watching him, but that just looks like a soft trench team. And that's not how you win games. And I think we've seen that the Packers have been a team that has lost some really weird games, but they've won some very weird games as well. When you lose to the Browns and you lose to the Panthers, and I'm thinking, okay, and they tied the Cowboys, what the heck is going on in Detroit? But yet they've had some wins against the Lions and the Commanders. Other than that, like the Steelers, that was a pretty good game for them. Yep. But they've got some crazy games coming up where they got to play the Eagles, they got to play the Lions again in their division. They got the Broncos, they got the Vikings. That's another divisional game that I'm very interested in. But I look at that division again, the NFC North, the NFC North, and the NFC North. The Lions, I don't know what they are yet. They just beat up on my Bucks pretty bad, so I was a little pissed off a couple weeks ago, especially when now Mike Evans is probably out for most of the year. So really upset about how that game turned out. But, man, the Vikings with J.J. McCarthy, they got themselves quite the big win over the Lions the other day. And if he can stay healthy, I'm thinking this team has a lot of pieces and a lot of tools. They can be a battle. The Bears, Ben Johnson, like that looks like, the offense is starting to roll. The Bears are starting to pick things up, and they're starting to show that, you give them a few more games, that offense is only going to start clicking more. But for a team that started 0-2, they've done themselves pretty damn good the last couple of weeks here, getting wins. They had it was a kind of a crazy game. The Bengals weren't very good, but also they've shown since they've traded for Joe Flacco that they're going to compete. And when they get a 47-42 win, that's pretty good. So I look
Joe
at
Flacco still out there just flinging it. Like, good for you, man. Yeah.
And when the Browns kind of just traded him to the Bengals, I was thinking, like, what are you doing trading him to a divisional rival? Like, what the heck is going on? And thinking, good for him. Now he got, get out of that stinky Cleveland Browns team, and let's see what you can do with the Bengals. I don't see it happening much, but just seeing that they're 5-2-1, 5-3, 5-3, and 4-4. Minnesota Vikings are last place at 4-4. All four of those teams,
That's
I think,
tough
can
division, man. Yeah.
They are all four teams. I think have a chance to make the playoffs, and that's crazy to see an entire division. I don't know if it's going to actually happen, but listen, that like those, there's going to be a good team that misses the playoffs due to that division. All of a sudden, like the Bucks. I'm a huge Bucks fan, so my bias comes in here. Baker Mayfield has done wonders with basically no receiving core the last couple weeks. It was tough to see them go up against that Lions team, and they've already had an injury to Mike Evans this year, and he comes back, and it seems like it's an even bigger injury, and his streak of 1,000 yards is now broken, and he has tied Jerry Rice for the record of most 1,000 yards consecutively. But I was really pulling and really hoping. Everybody loves Mike Evans. I really wanted to see him get that record on his own. Tough to see him go down to an injury, but Chris Godwin was coming off a tough injury for them, and they went out and drafted Emeka Abuka, and he's been rookie of the year, offensive rookie of the year so far it looks like. But here come the Carolina Panthers at 5-4, and I'm thinking Dave Canales, another former offensive coordinator. Basically, if you want to be a head coach in the NFL, you be the offensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because they've constantly just bred head coaches, whether it be Liam Cohen in Jacksonville, Dave Canales in Carolina. Crazy to see how this has happened. But they started 0-2, couple tough losses, but man, they have come on pretty strong lately. A win over the Packers. They got dusted by the Bills, but they were able to beat the Cowboys in a tight one as well. And the Jets, that game was a bit of a stinky game. But beating the Falcons, a division rival, 30-0, just like in I think it was week 3. What a crazy game for them. So I'm starting to think like maybe there is something there with the Carolina Panthers. I didn't see them being better than the Atlanta Falcons, that's for sure. Seattle, being okay, and the Rams being okay. The 49ers being 6-3, very interesting when Brock Purdy's been hurt for most of the year. Yeah. George Kittle was hurt for, a good chunk of the beginning of the year. But, McCaffrey, the guy's a dog, and he just carries that team. The defense, Bosa's out for mostly, I think, the entire year. That defense is not the same anymore. But hey, they're a team that's sitting at 6-3 in third place. Again, that's another tough division. So, when you look at, everywhere else, the Eagles, they're going to make the playoffs for the NFC East. The Packers, Lions, Bears, Vikings, they're duking it out pretty hard. I'm going to go and assume that the Buccaneers are able to ride things out and they still win the NFC South. I do believe that. But when you look at the NFC North and the NFC West, those are two divisions where there's 3 and 4 teams that are right there. It looks like there's going to be teams that are really good.
That'll be a
they're going to miss the
right
playoffs.
to the end.
Yeah. So pretty crazy start to the NFL year. I love it. It's just, I like parity. I like different teams. I liked when a few weeks ago the Bucks were the best team in the NFL, and I'm thinking like, what the hell? It's the damn Bucks, and they were injured, and people are talking about them, and I'm thinking like, this is a team that okay, let's go. But yeah, it's I love when you see this stuff. I like that Seattle is up there. I like that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are up there. I like that the Bears are getting relevant. I like when you see that stuff, and again, the Patriots being relevant again is awesome. And
the Bears, man, that's such a monster of a market that's just been bad for so long. Like if they can make themselves relevant, like that would be huge for the league, right? So
and curse that quarterback too. Like they've just never been able to really have that quarterback. And Caleb Williams is still developing pretty well, but he's trying to put himself out there as a very young quarterback that could take a next step. And he was a very highly ranked in college football, and first overall pick. So there was a lot of hype around him. Nice to see him kind of settle in and just push that Bears team to a playoff spot. Again, Ben Johnson, the new head coach there, he came over from the Detroit Lions, and he has that attitude where, you go back a couple of years ago, and things I love about the NFL is he was a hot commodity as well. When the Detroit Lions were doing good and their run game was amazing and they were the hot team a couple of years ago, everybody wanted Ben Johnson, and he's like, you know what? I'm going to run it back with these guys. I didn't see a coaching spot open that I really wanted. I'm going to go back, be the offensive coordinator for the Lions again. And then he saw a spot where he loved it. And you know what? There was, Tom Brady and the Raiders and people talking about how Ben Johnson was going to go there. Other teams thinking that they wanted to bring him in. And you know what? He goes to the Bears, and it seems like things are starting to work out there. I'm going to assume that the Bears are only going to get better as the season goes on, as they still get used to that new offense and Ben Johnson, their head coach. But man, it would absolutely, when you get those traditional markets, the Packers, the Bears, the Vikings are another one for sure too.
Steelers, if you can still be relevant, right? These are big time names around the league, and while your 49ers. Giants aren't any good or your Cowboys aren't any good, like you need some tent post franchises to be holding things up, and we've got some of those stepping forward right now.
It's another good thing to see the Broncos up there too at 7-2, right? So I have a hard time believing that things are always going to stay the same in the NFL. That's the beauty of sports, and things are going to change. But my early take on the season is, what the fuck, man? Like, this is quite the year. It's crazy to see. I couldn't have predicted half of this stuff, but I like it. I like when chaos is happening. It's pretty good, man.
Well, we have toured around the NFL. I know you've got a meeting here, but anything else you think, on the sports front anywhere that you want to touch on before we wrap things up, man?
There's a couple things we could touch on. We always like touching on fights, and I think that's always a big thing. And
the Tom Aspinall one is the one that stands out to me from a week or so ago, man, where that guy had waited so long to get back in there. He'd been held up by John Jones, dicking around. He finally gets back in there against Cyril Gahn to defend his title. He gets poked in the eye in the first round and cannot see, and they have to call the fight. Man, that sucked to see for everybody involved. Cyril Gahn did not mean to do it. Tom Aspinall, the people are booing in the stadium, and he's like, "What do you want from me? I can't see." And it ended up being both eyes, I believe, that he got poked in. And I don't know where they go with that next, but to me, on the fight front, you're trying so hard to get that heavyweight division moving again, and the first time out with a big title fight, and it's sort of been held up. You didn't get a winner. You don't have any further clarity on, do you give Gahn another shot? Does it have to be somebody else? What do you do with Aspinall? They just can't get that division moving.
Yeah, and it's tough too, because you go down the list, and there was a couple fights that night that was you were kind of hoping to get better answers out of. And Alexander Volkov, he's kind of deserves himself a title shot now. He's shown after he beat Jailton Almeida that night that, hey, I'm still here. I'm still a big dog. And when you look at Cyril Gahn, again, it's tough. I hate the fight world when stuff like this happens, just because it's just so incidental, but also, like you said, it sets the division back.
Yeah.
If you want to run this back, everything kind of is in a stalemate. You want to get the division going. You feel for Cyril Gahn. You feel for Tom Aspinall. Like you said, everybody really loves the guy, and then they're booing him, and they're upset about what happened. You have his dad, I think, was out there tweeting out that he still couldn't see on Halloween, or right before Halloween. Then you know what? He goes out on Halloween, and he embraces it by wearing the eye patch. Like, just, funny guy. I like it. And I think that was just a tough one to go. But, I was going to say, unfortunate how the heavyweight division was so excited for that night, and it was kind of a dud. So
it just stalled. It stalled everything, because now you just, like you said, do you want to run it back? Do you move on to somebody else? And it's, Cyril Gahn, sorry, man, like, you've lost your opportunity. We just don't know anything after waiting so long to get the heavyweight division moving again. It's still just kind of sitting in flux.
Yeah, exactly. And you go back to the other fights that night, and Mackenzie Dern looked really good in multiple ways that night, especially beating Verna Janradova. Like, for her, she's starting to make everybody look around and think, okay, all right, Mackenzie Dern, listen, let's go. But, I look at a couple upcoming fights too, where I'm just curious to see how things are going to start shaking out in a couple other divisions, and getting excited. But I do know the fact that we've talked about it so many times. The White House card, it's been brought up. It seems like it's every day it's getting more and more realistic, and I'm thinking, like, this is crazy that this is happening. But now I'm starting to, I won't lie to you, kind of get a little excited to see this. Yeah, I kind of am. I know it's going to be a shit show. I don't love it, but you know what? It is actually somewhat exciting looking. And you know what? Coming up in a couple weeks from now, I think it's probably one of the cards of the year to watch. UFC 322, Della Maddalena versus Makhachev. I think that this is going to be a great fight. Jack Della Maddalena, I've kind of always been high on. I thought he's a really exciting fighter. I love that he got his win over Bilal Muhammad. And now Makhachev, kind of waiting there, moving up. Let's go. Let's see what I could do here in the welterweight division. If I could take a title from you, I think that these two fighters really shape up pretty well. Also, looking forward to the women's flyweight title fight. My girl, Zhang Weili, Valentina Shevchenko. This fight has, I think... Yeah, it's going to be a crazy
fight. We might have to put some money on that one.
Yeah, we might have to. But also, you go down the card too, like Leon Edwards versus Carlos Prates, like that. The Prates, that's a big fight right there. And Leon Edwards, is he going to get himself back? Kind of excited. Bo Nickel, he's fighting as well in the prelim card right before. He's the last fight on the prelim card.
So I always mix him up with Bo Nix when I'm talking about the two. I mix the names up all the time.
Oh, do you really? Yeah, that's so funny. I can see it. Listen, I can see it.
Bronco quarterback Bo Nickel and UFC fighter Bo Nix. You're like, you may have that backwards there, buddy.
Yeah, so I think, and there's a good chunk of fighters on this card that, whether it be, even just the third fight of the, not the main event, the co-main, but the last fight before that, you have Sean Brady versus Michael Moraes. Michael Moraes is 18-0, Sean Brady's 18-1. Like, the welterweight division is, there's some good fights on that card that are all for the welterweight division. Like I said, Leon Edwards versus Carlos Prates right after that. That's another big one too. So I think that is a card that is very much not getting the hype it deserves. Listen, everybody's talking about 323.
Well, Makhachev moving up, that's the big story, right? After what he did at lightweight and to grab that title and be like, yeah, no, I'm ready for welterweight. I'm going to go do that thing now. That'd be wild, man. To
We spent a few minutes talking before about 323 being announced in December. I love the fights. I love the matchups. Merab versus Peter Yan. Pantoja versus Joshua Van. I really like Joshua Van. I think he's that guy that can really show up and be like, I'm going to fuck shit up here, and I'm the new guy to look at. He's young. He's exciting. Pantoja has been looking for opponents. I really hope this is the guy that could give him, maybe a trilogy fight, because I think that right now the flyweight division is just very much meh. So it would be nice to get a couple fights out of these two guys. But I'm liking where the UFC is at, but I just felt like we haven't talked enough about 322 coming up on November 15th. That looks like quite the card. And like you said, Islam Makhachev making the step up. He's big, he's strong. He looked big for lightweight.
He did.
Now he's in his own division where he's in the welterweights. Well, Jack Della Maddalena, he's 18-2. He's no slouch either.
He's no joke.
No, I'm looking forward to seeing these two guys go at it in the main event. And again, just a well-rounded card. Zhang Weili, love that. We might have to put some shekels down. Maybe
I like
pints.
Shevchenko. I've always been a fan of hers. So yeah, our girl's going head to head in that one. So we'll more likely for you and I put pints on it than money on it. We'll see how that goes. But it looks like a good looking card, man. And the fights, like everything else for me, have been sort of, I don't know. I did enjoy though the 321. That was a great day for me, man, because that was a 2 p.m. start because they were over in Abu Dhabi. And then the Leafs had been moved to 5 p.m. because of the Jays, and then the Jays at 8 o'clock. That was a great day on the couch a couple of weeks ago. 2 o'clock through about midnight, just beauty, right? Fights, and then hockey, and then baseball. That's not a bad day for old Matt. So, I appreciate you doing this, man. We'll start to wrap it up here. It was a bit of a hangover show, for lack of a better term, right? After everything that's gone on with the Jays, trying to get caught up on the sports world. I have been, I won't say checked out. I'm still watching highlights. I was still seeing on Twitter what was going on, still checking scores and keeping an eye on stats and stuff. But man, it had just been every night basically since the beginning of October was playoff baseball. And it means, I haven't seen a lot of hockey, haven't seen a lot of football, haven't seen a lot of fights. And I guess perhaps not surprisingly because of that, hadn't talked a lot about those things on the show. It had been all baseball all the time here for a while, and now we'll be able to kind of get back on track, back to normal. Certainly going to miss the Jays, but it was also causing us to do some shows on some off days and release things on off times, and every game was going till like 11:30, so your sleep schedule's getting all fucked up. Unless it was going till 3 in the morning, like the one day, that was messed up enough. But hopefully now we get back on track a little bit, man.
Yeah, I was waking up for work and they were starting the post-game press conferences. Right. And I'm like, this game ended 20 minutes ago. How the heck is this happening? Like, wild night. But I'm glad you're all right, Maddie. Thank you for having me on. I'm sure we'll be on. We'll have another beer before, in the next couple of weeks here. So thanks for having me on. I hope I helped you get over your blues.
Cope. Yes, you did.
Cope a little bit, and I'm still dealing with the Halloween blues. So, all you people out there celebrating Christmas, you watch it.
You keep an eye out for Bunda. Show a little love, man. And that's why he's drinking that Damn It. That's what he's feeling after the end of Halloween.
And that was actually a really tasty afternoon pint. If I had like 4 of these right now, I would be loving it. But
just
very good.
Cruise through the afternoon.
Love the can art too. So once again, shout out to Angela for supplying my beers today. Thank you.
She does that. We like her. Her and the Lake of Bays Brewing Company always got new stuff, especially seasonals. So keep an eye out for them. They're in the liquor store all over the place and at your favorite local establishment. That's where we'll wrap this one up. Don't forget, Oren Wiesfeld coming up on the Friday edition of the show. We'll be talking about the golden generation, how Canada became a basketball powerhouse. And then next week, actually, I forgot to mention off the top, in studio for the first time, Cheryl Pounder. That's going to be a lot of fun as well. We've talked to Cheryl online a couple times before on the show. Never in studio, though, so we'll look forward to that. See what kind of pint she might enjoy. For Steve Bunda, my name is Matt Robinson. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you Friday morning.
I've got nothing here. You're giving me baseball and hockey, and I got my keister blowing in the wind. That made to look like a fool here. That's just dumb. I don't want anything to do with this place. This place is run by a bunch of children.